Yesterday was a very difficult day for the world of motorsport, not just in Formula One, where we saw first of all McLaren pull out of the Australian Grand Prix, and then ultimately after a lot of messing and poor handling of the situation, it was eventually announced this morning that the Australian Grand Prix would be cancelled for 2020. We also saw NASCAR, IndyCar, the WEC, Sebring 24 Hours also be cancelled or postponed. And we find ourselves now in a tricky situation. Yesterday, I did a video in the morning talking about McLaren, and I had planned to cover the Australian Grand Prix cancellation. But the fact that information was so hard to come by, I thought I would wait and see how the whole situation pans out and to try and find a little bit of direction of where we're going. If you didn't see yesterday's video, don't worry, don't panic. But the main crux of that argument and that story was that the virus, truth be told, we don't know its capabilities. Yes, we know roughly where it's come from, and all disclosure, I am no health expert. And I think it's fair to say that the majority of information, at least I've been seeing, is misleading. One day we're hearing positive things, the next not so great. It's all very confusing for everyone. And I think what's even scarier, without going into too much detail, and I'll go back to racing in a moment, but what's even scarier is that these events are being put off not because of the virus itself. It's a relatively mild virus, from what I can tell, but the impact on people that are in the high risk zones and how easily spreadable it is causing events to be closed. And personally, I think that's quite amazing how we are all willing to sacrifice such vital parts of our lives to look after those vulnerable. So I agree with all decisions being made so far. And I think a lot of people yesterday were getting frustrated that it felt like, even Lewis Hamilton, 6-time world champion, felt like money was doing a lot of talking yesterday in the world of Formula One. And eventually, common sense prevailed. The race was cancelled. Now, I also asked in yesterday's video, what are your questions going forward? Because again, there's lots of misinformation everywhere, not a lot of answers. And about 10 minutes ago, before recording, not only this morning did we get confirmation of the Australian Grand Prix being cancelled, but we've also got news about the next two races, Bahrain and Vietnam. And I just want to read the statement put out by Formula One and the FIA regarding this situation. In view of the continued global spread of COVID-19, and after ongoing discussions with the FIA, Bahrain International Circuit, Bahrain Motor Federation, the Hanoi People's Committee, the Vietnamese Motorsport Association and the Vietnam Grand Prix Corporation, a decision has been taken by all parties to postpone both races due to take place on the 20th to 22nd of March in Bahrain and the April 3rd to April 5th in Vietnam. Following the announcement of the Australian Grand Prix cancellation this week and the ongoing and fluid nature of the COVID-19 situation globally, Formula One, the FIA and the promoters have taken these decisions in order to ensure health and safety of the travelling staff, championship participants and fans, which remains our primary concern. Formula One and the FIA continue to work closely with race promoters in Bahrain and in Vietnam and the local authorities to monitor the situation and to take the appropriate amount of time to study the viability of potential alternative dates for each Grand Prix later in the year should the situation improve. As a result, Formula One and the FIA expect to begin the championship in Europe at the end of May. Keep in mind that little bit of information, but the sharp increase of COVID-19 cases in Europe in recent days will be regularly reviewed. The initial arrangement for the Bahrain Grand Prix was that it was going to be behind closed doors. This was quite a drastic measure. We've never seen this in the world of Formula One, and we have seen UEFA in the Champions League and Europa League construct these measures. We've also seen it in Serie A, in the Italian football leagues. playing behind closed doors. But ultimately, with now COVID-19 being confirmed at the Australian Grand Prix paddock, the FIA have decided to postpone both the Bahrain Grand Prix and Vietnam Grand Prix, both set to take place this and next month. Postponement is a difficult one. The Formula One calendar already is very tightly packed in. Ultimately, this doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for races to be moved from now to later on in the season. Don't forget as well, and I spoke a little bit about this yesterday, Formula One runs on a year-to-year basis. Formula E, for example, is a season basis. So very easily, Formula E can pick up their races next year, if needs be, and continue the championship. Formula One works on a year basis, so all the races, in theory, all World Championship races have to take place in 2020. Officially, there only needs to be 8 races over the course of the year for it to be classed as a World Championship. Now, in the statement I just read out, 8 World Championship races is plausible with their deadline, end of May. Looking at the calendar, that means we could see Monaco, but more likely, what the FIA are proposing at the moment is our season opener would be round 8 of the championship in Azerbaijan. I think what's important to remember is that this virus is a complete unknown, complete uncharted waters, not only for the racing community, but globally. And in China, we are seeing reports that day by day, there are less and less cases and there are more people recovering from the virus. We're also seeing reports that there potentially could be a second wave of the virus. In all honesty, we don't know. We really don't know. So it's plausible. By June, things could be better and there's an opportunity we could get racing again. There's also a high priority. Safety comes first. And if that is still an issue, then we're going to have to push it back even further. And I think as well, just to note, the statement that we will start the season at the end of May suggests to me that the Netherlands and Spain are also either going to be postponed or completely cancelled. And this is my personal opinion now, I think it's very unlikely to see Bahrain or Vietnam show up a little bit later on in the season. Maybe Vietnam, early October between Russia and Japan, but even then the calendar is going to get so tightly packed that's going to have a knock-on effect pushing the USA, Mexico, Brazil and Abu Dhabi later on in the calendar. But even then I find it unlikely we will see them later on. Again, the situation could miraculously recover and there is a bit of wiggle room with the summer break. Of course, Formula One teams now won't be flat out from March all the way to November, so they might try and do something there. But again, priority is safety of the team. So 8 races are needed for a World Championship. In my brain right now, and again, this is just my own opinion and my own feelings toward the situation, I think it's likely we will start the season on August the 30th in Belgium. Again, it's a difficult one, and this is a bit of a stab in the dark, but there are 9 races after the summer break. Formula One have said they will show up to race weekends and judge it on a week-by-week situation. They love using this phrase, the situation is fluid. But I think, not just for the teams, but we saw yesterday the huge kerfuffle, whether the race is on, whether the race is off. What a huge effect that has had on the media, on fans. I'm sitting here right now, and I think a lot of you are, expecting to go to at least one race this year in 2020, not knowing, first of all, whether it's going to be on or not knowing if we're getting our money back. And yes, that's not the primary focus here, but it will be in the back of people's minds. And the closer we get to race weekends, the more frustrated people are going to get, the more worried people are going to get. And I sit here right now, obviously hopeful that over the next month, the virus calms down. Hopeful that by the time we get to the end of May, we are going racing and that Azerbaijan is the first race of the season. That would be fantastic. But I think being realistic, I think after that summer break gives us plenty of time to monitor the situation. But very easily, after the summer break, it might still not be fixed. So I understand race by race situation is what we're going with. And that probably is the most sensible way forward. I just sit here right now thinking, let's not do this how we did it this weekend. And I think already, by saying Bahrain and Vietnam are postponed, that's the right way forward. So, as of now, our first race of the season is in the Netherlands. Again, seems unlikely. So, from Formula 1 statement, we start in Azerbaijan. I think Belgium. I think we're in a situation here, and I'm sure you're all already aware of this. We're going to have to take this week by week, day by day, hope for a bit of racing, but be logical, be realistic. This is a situation way out of our control, and we just got to be nice to each other. This is no one's fault. We've got to keep cracking on, keep going forward where we can. I will keep pumping out Formula 1 content where I can. Of course, I'm going to have to be a bit more innovative, but that's fine with me. This is the most important thing at the moment. And yes, I will, if there's any more updates, and I'm sure there will be, I will be covering them, because this is a situation that's going to always be evolving, always going to be changing, and I think it's important you know. So if you want to keep up to date, yes, the subscribe button is there down below. You can like if you want to keep content going for the future. It's a good indication of whether people are responding to this kind of thing or if they want to hear less of it. I'm not really quite too sure at this moment in time, but I personally feel it's important to keep you involved and keep you in the know, because at the moment there are so many people giving false information, and I want to give you the official information straight from the FIA where I can. So that's my part. That's what I'm going to play. Try and keep you all as upbeat as I possibly can. Hopefully bring you a few smiles and laughs over the next few weeks and months. But this is tricky times for all of us. So as long as a community we stick together, and hopefully I don't get too soppy, I think we'll be all right. And I think at the moment it seems like there's not light at the end of the tunnel. We'll get there. Formula 1, as much as we all love it, it's not the be all and end all. And don't worry, if it comes to it, we can do some racing on the game. Hopefully that doesn't... You don't want to see that. I will leave that there, guys. Thank you for watching today's video. Again, if you want to keep up to date, you know where that subscribe button is. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.